Hi friends, time for another story. Today we have Little Red Riding Hood, and this is retold by Trina, Schart, Hyman. You see this little logo down here? It says it's a Caldecott honor. That means it's an award-winning version of the book. So let's see. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Elizabeth who lived with her mother in a house on the edge of the village. She was loved by all who knew her, but she was especially dear to her grandmother, who loved her more than anything in the world. One day, the grandmother sewed a red velvet cloak with a hood and gave it to Elizabeth for her birthday. It looked so pretty, and she liked it so much that she would never wear anything else, and therefore everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. I got it back up so you can see better. There we go. Early one morning, her mother said to her, "Come here, Red Riding Hood, and listen to me. I want you to take this loaf of fresh bread, some of this sweet butter, and a bottle of wine to your grandmother. She is sick in bed, and they will do her a world of good. Go right away before the sun gets too hot. Promise me that you won't daydream and stray off the path, and don't run or you'll fall down and break the bottle. And then there will be no wine for grandmother. And when you get there, please don't forget your manners. Say, 'Good morning,' 'please,' and 'thank you,' nicely, without staring round about you or sucking your finger. Don't stay too long or else you'll tire grandmother. And when you have had a nice visit, come straight home." "Yes, Mamma," said Little Red Riding Hood. "I promise I will do just as you tell me." So there's Elizabeth, Little Red, and Mama. Oh, and it looks like she's got a mama cat and two little kittens down in the corner. Now her grandmother lived in a cottage in the middle of the forest, a good half an hour's walk from the village. But Little Red Riding Hood knew the way, so she was not afraid to go by herself. When she had walked far enough into the woods to feel just a bit lonely, who should she meet but a sly, hungry old wolf? She had no idea what a wicked animal he was, however, so she was not at all frightened of him. "Good morning, Red Riding Hood," he said. "Good morning, Wolf," she answered politely. "Where are you off to so early in the day, my dear?" he asked. "Ooh, there's the wolf." "I'm going to grandmother's. She is sick in bed, you know." "Is that so?" he murmured. "And what have you got in your basket?" "A loaf of bread, some sweet butter, and a bottle of wine. Mamma and I baked yesterday, so I'm taking a loaf to grandmother. It will do her a world of good." "Now isn't that nice? And where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "Oh, it's a good 15 minutes farther into the wood. Her house is the only one by those 3 oak trees, right next to the blackberry hedge, and there's a stream running by her garden. Surely you know the place," said Little Red Riding Hood. Uh-oh. I think Red's giving a little too many details to someone who's basically a stranger. The wolf thought to himself, "Aha, this tender little creature will be a plump morsel, a good dessert after the old woman. I must be clever about this so that I can make a good meal out of the two of them." He walked along with Little Red Riding Hood for a while, making polite conversation. Then he said, "Just look at those beautiful wildflowers, Red Riding Hood. They're a sight even for my tired old eyes. For goodness sakes, why don't you relax a bit, look at the world, and see how lovely it is? Why, I don't believe you even hear the birds sing, or enjoy the sunshine. You are just as solemn and well-behaved as if you were going to school. Everything else is so gay and happy out here in the forest." The wolf is very strange. Then Little Red Riding Hood looked away from the path, and when she saw the sunlight dancing through the trees and the wildflowers and butterflies scattered throughout the ferns, she thought, "I'm sure the grandmother would feel happier if I took her a bunch of flowers. They're a sight for tired old eyes, I know. And it is still quite early in the day. I'll have plenty of time to pick them." Excuse me, words are getting twisted. So she excused herself, said goodbye to the wolf, and wandered off among the trees to pick flowers. Each time she picked one, she always saw another, even prettier one farther away, and so she left the path and went deeper and deeper into the forest. Meanwhile, the wicked wolf went straight off to the grandmother's cottage and knocked softly on the door. So there she is, there's her basket, and there she is in the woods. And here goes the wolf off to grandmother's house. It's kind of sneaky how they put pictures in with the words. "Who's there?" called the grandmother from her bed. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf in a tiny voice. "I brought you a loaf of bread, some sweet butter, and a bottle of wine. Let me in." "You'll have to lift the latch and let yourself in, dear," the grandmother called out. "I'm feeling too weak to get out of bed." So the wolf lifted the latch and opened the door. He ran straight to the bed, and without even saying good morning, he ate up the poor old grandmother in one gulp. Then he put a clean nightgown and a shawl that were lying on a chair by the bedside, got into the bed, and pulled the bed curtains closer together. So here's the grandmother in bed, and there's the wolf, trying to be sneaky. Let's see. Well, most of us know what happens next, but let's find out anyways. In the meantime, Little Red Riding Hood wandered here and there, picking flowers until she had such an armful she could barely hold them all. Then she suddenly remembered her grandmother and the promise she had made to her mother. So she found her way back to the path and walked straight to the cottage. When she got there, she was amazed to find the door open, and she tiptoed in. She felt quite frightened, but she didn't know why. "What's wrong?" she thought. "I always like coming to grandmother's so much. Why should I feel so afraid? Can it be 'cause she's sick?" Yep, there she is. That's a whole lot of flowers. "Good morning, grandmother," she called. But there was no answer. Then she went quietly into the bedroom and pulled the bed curtains back. There lay her grandmother, but she had drawn her shawl down over her face, and she looked very odd. Red Riding Hood couldn't help but stare. "Grandmother, what big hairy ears you have grown," she said. "The better to hear you with, my dear." Yep, so here's Red. There's you-know-who. "Oh, grandmother, your eyes are so shiny." "The better to see you with, my dear." "Your hands look so strange, grandmother." "The better to catch you and hug you with, my dear." "Please, grandmother, why do you have such big, sharp teeth?" "Those are to eat you up with, my dear." As the wolf said this, he sprang out of the bed and ate up poor Little Red Riding Hood. Then, having finished his first good meal in many weeks, that wicked wolf went back to bed, pulled the covers up, and soon was snoring as loudly as you can imagine. Well, it's a good thing no one saw the cat. That would have been a poor kitty if the wolf had eaten that. Let's see what happens next. Not long after that, a huntsman from the village happened to be passing by the grandmother's cottage. "By Jimmy," he thought, "the old lady is snoring much too loudly. Maybe I should stop in and see if there's anything the matter with her." So he went right into the house and up to the bed, where he saw the wolf fast asleep in the grandmother's nightgown and shawl, with a fat stomach full to bursting. Yep, here's the hunter. Oh, looks like the cat's trying to get his attention. Right away, the huntsman guessed what had happened. "So here you are, you old sinner," the huntsman said. "I've been looking for you all these years, and now this is where I find you." He raised his gun to shoot, and then he wondered if the wicked old wolf might have swallowed the grandmother whole, and if perhaps there was a chance she still might be saved. So he took out his knife and quickly killed the wolf while he was lying asleep. Then he carefully cut open the wolf's stomach. Definitely the wolf has got a very large belly. At the first cut, he saw the red velvet cloak, and after a few more slashes, a little girl jumped out and cried, "Oh, thank you! I was very frightened." It was so dark inside the wolf. Next, the grandmother climbed out, alive but hardly able to breathe from fright and exhaustion. They thanked the huntsman with all their hearts, and he was so glad to see them both alive and well that he hugged Little Red Riding Hood and shook the grandmother's hand over and over again. He's a very tall huntsman. He's able to pick her up. Oh, and the cats are happy. They were all quite happy. The huntsman skinned the wolf and took the pelt home to nail on his door. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother sat down together to eat the fresh bread and sweet butter. The grandmother drank some of the wine, and Little Red Riding Hood had a cup of blackberry tea. After a while, the grandmother felt quite strong and healthy and began to clean up the mess that the wolf had left in the cottage. Oh, there's Grandma doing laundry. There's the huntsman with the wolf in the wolf skin. As Little Red Riding Hood walked home through the woods, she thought to herself, "I will never wander off the forest path again as long as I live. I should have kept my promise to my mother." She was comforted, though, that she had at least minded her manners and had always said good morning, please, and thank you. I love the art of this book. But the trickiest part is the message that goes with the story. In Little Red Riding Hood, she didn't really know the wolf and she didn't really trust him. So he basically was a stranger. And, strangers can trick you sometimes. So you have to be careful about who you talk to. All right. See you guys next time.